We are a week into the NHL playoffs, and maybe don't go buying round 2 tickets if you're a Dallas Stars fan.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Locked On NHL, where we've got the NHL covered every single day. I am Nick Zararis, one of the hosts of Locked On Flames and the interim host of Locked On Oilers. That is Hunter Hodes, one of the co-hosts of Locked On Penguins. Today's very special playoff episode of the NHL Power Rankings is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. The mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. And we've got plenty to talk about. We're going to bounce around all 8 playoff series, maybe extrapolate outward a little bit more, talk about some of the big picture themes and storylines that are developing as we go. But let's start with the one that's freshest in our mind, the one that I am the most intimately aware with, the Oilers series against the Kings. That game last night, very interesting, very different from game number 1. And you and I had the Oilers ranked pretty starkly different last week. I had the Oilers 4, you had them a little closer to the middle of the pack. And through 2 games, I think you saw both the high-end version of the Oilers and you saw what the bad version of the Oilers is. They didn't play atrociously last night, but you needed one big save from Stuart Skinner, and you didn't get it. And then little mistakes. You know, you go and look at all of the Kings' goals. They're off of bad Oilers plays at their own blue line where they're trying to make a horizontal pass to generate offense. And the Kings played a lot tighter and were a lot more aggressive in pressuring guys and forcing turnovers. I'm not here to say I am worried about the Oilers, but I do think the Oilers in particular, and there are a few teams that fit in this category, are pretty volatile. And that's why why I had to move them down a couple of spots from 4 to 8. And then in regards to the Kings, I bumped the Kings up a couple of spots. I thought the Kings played pretty well last night and showed you they're perfectly capable of hanging around with the Oilers, excuse me.
Yeah, the reason why I have the Oilers in the middle of the pack are because of these 2 games, Nick. Like you get the high-end version, but then you get this version of the Oilers where they're not good defensively, Stuart Skinner can't get a save, and they're not that reliant on their high-end talent. I mean, McDavid was held to just 1 point in that 5-4 loss last night. And that's what the Kings are going to have to do if they want to win this series. You obviously can't be allowing him to have 5 assists in 1 game and think that you're going to win this series. I mean, he already has 6 points in 2 games, but again, 5 of them were in game 1. If you can limit McDavid to how you did in game 2, the Kings will have a chance to at least get an upset in this series. And even in game 1, when the Oilers jumped out to a couple of big leads, at least the Kings didn't quit. They were trying to make that a game a couple of times. They did have a disallowed goal in there as well. But the Kings are not backing down in this series. I do think if they want to win it, Cam Talbot's going to have to be a little bit better going back home. I think the Kings' high-end talent is also going to have to step up a little bit more, but at least they're definitely not going down without a fight this year. Because I figured last night, Oilers probably going to jump out to a 2-0 lead just because I've seen how this series has gone the last couple of years. But the meh version of the Oilers showed up, and that can't happen if they want to win this series and especially go deep in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's the thing with the team like the Oilers. They're very volatile up and down, where it felt like every single mistake they made last night resulted in a really good chance for the Kings or just a goal outright. And the other way around, looking at it from a Kings perspective, you did your job. I talked about it on the show building up to game 2, that if the Kings are going to find a way to protract and make this series difficult for the Oilers, they're probably going to have to steal at least 1, if not 2 games in overtime, because head-to-head talent-wise, the Kings are a little bit deeper, but the Oilers guys are just better. So to make it work, you're going to have to drag these games out, and, you know, they have enough guys. I know the Kings don't get a lot of publicity because East Coast bias. They play 10 o'clock every night on the East Coast when you live on the East Coast. But talent-wise, that's a really good forward group. You saw Kempe really flash a little bit. Fiala, everybody knows he had 40 goals a couple years ago. Kopitar still as good as ever. Doughty had a really nice game last night. That second pair of Matt Roy and Matt Roy and not Trevor Moore. Trevor Moore's a forward. Gavrikov. Excuse me. That's who I was thinking of. Matt Roy and Gavrikov do a nice job defensively. Ditto does a really good job of annoying your good players where he's constantly grabbing and tugging and frustrating them. And I think that series, it sounds very cliche to say a 1-1 series is going to swing on the game 3. Everybody knows that, obviously, but it's not necessarily the result. I think in that series in particular, I think how the game goes matters more than the actual result, because I think if the Kings can muck it up, slow it down, and be difficult, that becomes a problem. But we're going to move on. We're going to talk about Vegas-Dallas next, another game that played last night, and I had Vegas at 6 last week. I have Vegas at 1 now. You beat the team I picked to win the Stanley Cup 2 straight games by locking them down defensively, and your star players outplaying their star players. You got to get the respect. Vegas has looked like the best team in the playoffs so far, and my only real hesitation with them was going to be would they need a little bit of time to ramp up and get their guys situated.
I hate this matchup for the Stars. I hated it going in. I was like, I know the Stars have the deeper forward group, but I could easily see Vegas pulling this off. And so far, they are pulling this off. They sweep the 2 games in Dallas. They'll now head home to the Fortress where, that's one of the toughest places to play in the NHL. I have Vegas at number 3 this week. I had them a little further down last week, but I have them directly behind the Florida Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes. The Knights, man, ever since getting Stone back, they just look like a completely different team. Petrangelo's healthy. Tomas Hertl is also healthy. This lineup is scary good. And at this point, it's going to be really hard for the Stars to beat the Knights 4 out of 5 times. It was just whoever was going to get the Knights in the playoffs was going to be going through hell, I feel like. And I wanted it to be Knights Oilers just because I think that would have been even more fun than the Kings Oilers series. But I still want Stars Knights to go 7 games. I feel like it deserves that. But Vegas is so good defensively, man. You saw that last night. The Stars were pushing and pushing in the third period, but Vegas was doing a great job limiting the chances to the outside, not allowing them to get to that high danger area. They are so good at that under Bruce Cassidy. And if Vegas is chugging along like this, Nick, I don't know who is going to beat them in the playoffs. Maybe Florida, maybe Carolina if they get to the final, but Vegas, once again, just doing its thing. And you know what? I love a good villain. They are a tremendous villain, and I know everyone loves to hate them, but you honestly got to respect them doing this at this point.
Jonathan Marchessault having a career year and a walk year. Yep. I know everybody's talked about Sam Bennett, but Marchessault had 40 tucks and he scored another goal last night. He's one of the more, I don't want to say underrated because he won the Conn Smythe last year, but lower profile players, I will say, in the league. And then real quick, we'll squeeze in the last game from last night. Bruins and Leafs. I think if the Leafs can't get Nylander back, I think we should all taper our expectations for them. They are constructed around their 4 stars, and if any one of their 4 stars isn't there, they're going to have a hard time. Ilya Samsonov's not a Stanley Cup caliber goaltender. I think the Leafs formula for success is rooted in their star players making plays. There were flashes last night. Matthews had the game winner the other night to get the series to 1-1, and the Leafs haven't played terribly, but the Bruins just look a little bit crisper. They're a bit more on the puck. They're a bit more physically in the game. And the Leafs are going to need to shake things up, whether that's changing the 12th forward, whether that's getting Nylander back. And if Nylander, how healthy is he? I think the Leafs are really kind of in trouble here, especially considering the edge in net here is maybe the biggest of any in all of these playoff series when we're comparing the Swayman-Ullmark tandem to Samsonov. And I imagine, as we talked about last night when that game ended, I think the Bruins have to stay with Swayman.
There's no chance you go back to Ullmark. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Ullmark. I think he's one of the best goaltenders in the league. And he was really, really good in game 2. But Swayman has just been a little bit better in this series.
The Leafs haven't beat him this year.
Yeah. And when you have a goalie playing at that level, you got to keep riding with him. I know they may feel like they made a mistake last year, for example, Nick, against Florida, riding Ullmark for most of that series before going to Swayman in game 7. But when you have a goalie who is outplaying the other goalie by even the slimmest of margins, you got to keep riding with a hot hand. You got to go Swayman in game 4 just because, again, he's been the better goalie. Another big thing for the Leafs for me, they got to stop playing into Brad Marchand, man. You know what you're going to get from Marchand. He's going to be that typical ratty player that you go up against on a nightly basis, and he's getting them to take stupid penalties. He's baiting them, but that's what he does to every single team. And the Leafs have got to stay diligent with that. They got to stay disciplined. You saw what Sheldon Keefe said to the media. He's obviously not happy. He's trying to send a message to the referees. You see that in any series that involves the Bruins and, for example, the Lightning.
You got to work the officials. That's part of the dynamic of a playoff series. But
100%.
We'll be right back, Hunter, and we'll let you finish that thought. We're up against it. We will be right back. We're going to take a quick break. We'll wrap up our thoughts on Bruins, Leafs, and then we will move along to some of the other playoff series. If you know me, you know I'm pretty competitive. I was thrown out of middle school gym class multiple times for being a bad teammate and telling people to play better. I did not like losing, even in gym class hockey. I have a competitive side, and Monopoly Go fuels it. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly, where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you money. The best part, though, messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on iconic Monopoly properties. I can heist their vaults of riches for myself, and the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. It's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. Get in the game, join your friends, download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. Want to thank everybody who's here hanging out. We are in the thick of the NHL playoffs. This is the best time of year. We are really, really in the weeds. And one last thought. Go ahead on the Bruins Leafs, Hunter. Finish up your thought.
Yeah, I just think overall for this series, I already talked about Marchand, talked about the goaltenders, but yeah, the Leafs really need more from Mitch Marner. I'm not trying to sound like a hater when it comes to that. I just think Marner needs to do a bit more in this series if the Leafs want to win it. And last thing, if the Leafs do lose this series, I haven't subscribed to this notion throughout their Big Four era, but if they do lose this series, even though they haven't had Nylander for 3 games, I think there will be some merit to it, Nick, when it comes to, okay, maybe this core might not be the right one to get over the hump just because of how long they've been together and they've only won 1 playoff series during that time. Again, still a long way to go in this series, but I think you can potentially ask legit questions about this Leafs score if they do lose to this Bruins team again.
Completely agreed with you in that respect. You can have talented players. They might just not fit together. There are plenty of examples throughout history across all of the major sports where you can have 4 really talented players. No one's disputing how good the 4 individual talents are of the Leafs forwards. But if the mix isn't there, the mix isn't there. Moving along, we can circle back. We stay in the Eastern Conference. Washington's doing what they can to make this series at least competitive, but they just don't have the horses. And the amount of stupid penalties they've taken to just invite the Rangers to score on that power play, it's mind-numbing. You would think if you were Spencer Carberry, after the way Game 1 went, where you got thrashed on the where the Rangers power play killed you, you would have told your guys, hey, we got to button it up. I understand to stay competitive, we have to be physical. We have to be on that edge. But we're just giving away opportunities here, and Washington just doesn't have the guys to sustain that. As long as the Rangers don't beat themselves, which they did for stretches of Game 2, the Capitals don't have a chance here, frankly. The only reason Washington had a chance in Game 2 was the Rangers didn't play nearly as well as they did in Game 1.
I was going to say that, Nick. It seems like the Rangers were playing with their food a little bit in Game 2, being like, okay, we're up by a couple here. Let's see if we can make it a little interesting down the stretch. And they did. Washington gets a goal back, and they're trying to tie the game late in regulation. They weren't able to do that, but I don't think the Rangers are going to do that for the rest of the series. If Washington wants to make a pretty big comeback, even though I think it's really unlikely, they need to get Alex Ovechkin going. He has been very limited in these first 2 games. I believe, Nick, he's only been held to 1 shot on net, which is pretty unheard of for who I think is the best who I think is the best goal scorer this league has ever seen. I almost said goaltender for some reason. I apologize about that. But the Rangers have done a tremendous job really limiting him. and they really frustrated him as well. I think they're going to try to get him going in game 3. They may want to change up the Ovechkin line overall. I think him with Oshie really doesn't make too much sense to me, in my opinion. If you maybe want to put him back with Dylan Strome, I think that makes more sense for Washington. But if the Rangers are able to keep baiting the Capitals into taking stupid penalties and just keep playing well 5-on-5, they should be able to win this series in 5 games. Igor Shesterkin has played really well in this series as well. I don't think Washington has a prayer to make this a series. I mean, I even said going in, I'd be surprised if this even went 6 games. If the Rangers get a split in Washington, I think this is over once the series goes back to the Garden. I just don't think the Capitals have enough scoring in their lineup to really outscore the Rangers. Their only hope, Nick, is to do 1-0, 2-1 wins, and that's probably not going to happen against a team like the Rangers that can score at will.
Yeah. Where do you have the Rangers? Where do you have the Capitals dead last? Where do you have the Rangers in your rankings, by the way?
Yeah, I have the Capitals dead last. I have the Rangers at number 4. So right behind Vegas, Florida, and Carolina.
Speaking of Carolina, who we can segue into nicely there, I have Carolina 4. I have the Rangers 3, solely based on, I think the Islanders have shown enough in that series that I think they're going to definitely win one of these 2 games back on Long Island and prolong that series just a little bit more. I think you clearly see the holes in this Islanders lineup as this series has developed. I was talking about it with Gil of Locked On Islanders over the weekend, and he said they have 4 top 6 forwards, the Islanders. And I think that's very accurate. You know, you go and look at that group, they're pigeonholing, they're buttonholing guys like Ross McLean, who, you know, he's 23 years old. This is his first ever NHL experience, and he scored a goal in game 1. That was nice. He got in a fight in game 2. He's made some things happen, but you need more guys. The Islanders are happy to make the playoffs. That's very clearly a directive from ownership and the way they've constructed this roster, where the goal is to have a very high floor, but not a particularly high ceiling. Varlamov hasn't been an issue. I do know they're going back to Sorokin for game 3, which I think at this point, you got to try whatever you can to get the team going. And the Islanders will get at least 1 win, if not 2 in this series. I think the Islanders have enough that they will annoy Carolina. They will find the way just like they did last year. But I did pick Carolina in 6 for a reason. They're a significantly more talented team.
I agree. I do think the Islanders will at least get a split here going back to Long Island. I just don't know if it lasts past game 5 if the Hurricanes are able to get a split on the island. The Islanders, they had every opportunity to win that game in game 2, man. They had every opportunity to go back to the island tied up. They jump out to that 3-0 lead. But the biggest thing, Nick, they stopped playing after that. The Hurricanes really took it to them. I mean, did you see the shot attempts numbers? What was it? 110 to like 28?
It was 125 to 28 for scoring attempts. Yeah,
something around there. And the Hurricanes flat out destroyed the Islanders for the second half of that game. And they had a lot more scoring chances, a lot more high danger chances. For a while, I was thinking, okay, the Islanders might be able to pull this off if they're able to hold on for the final couple of minutes. But the Hurricanes tie the game, and then just seconds later, Jordan Martinhook capitalizes on the Islanders kind of falling asleep in their own zone, and then Raleigh goes crazy. You then have the Jake Gensel empty net goal. And for the love of God, can people stop getting mad at regular empty net goals? I don't know why this has come up lately, but Jake Gensel really did nothing wrong there, and you saw Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri getting a little upset. But I agree. You know, you look at this Islanders team, they're just not nearly as deep as the Hurricanes are. I mean, no disrespect to Casey Cizikas, Nick, but he's on their top line. I mean, come on, man. It's just not – when you stack that up to the Hurricanes, it's really not fair. And Freddie Anderson, he's been great. I do think going back to Sorokin is the right move, though it carries some risk just because he was the worst of the 2 goalies this season. Semyon Varlamov outplayed him, so we'll have to see how Sorokin plays in game 3. But I got to think the Islanders will show at least more of a pulse at home, even though I think this series is still over in 5. I picked the Hurricanes in 5 for a reason.
Yeah. Well, and on this note, if you don't want the other team to score an empty net goal, prevent them from scoring an empty net goal. Get good. I hate to be that guy. I hate to sound like a kid playing Counter-Strike, but get good. If you don't want the Hurricanes to celebrate scoring an empty net goal, prevent them from scoring an empty net goal. It's immaturity at its finest. You can say, I was trying to get the guys going. I was mad. I was fired up. You look like you look like a child throwing a temper tantrum anytime you engage in something after someone scores a goal. Wait till the next face-off. Wait for the play to die. Don't go after somebody who is celebrating a goal. It looks immature. It looks bush league. And frankly, it's dangerous. Wait for the face-off if you really have something to say when the person is looking and maybe expecting to be engaged with, as opposed to that, because you look stupid, frankly, doing that. But coming up next, we will wrap up. We still got to touch on the best series so far, Winnipeg, Colorado, the Battle of Florida, and Nashville, Vancouver, coming up next on Locked On NHL. When you're drafting your fantasy team, don't you wish you could handpick the best stars for your business team? If you're building your talent roster, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like matching, assessments, and virtual interviews. Hate waiting? Indeed's U.S. data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. The thing I like most about Indeed is that everything is all in one place. You can set up interviews, you can take workplace assessments, you can get certifications, you set up interviews. Indeed knows when you're growing your business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have requirements. Visit Indeed.com/locked-on to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/locked-on. Indeed.com/locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. As we move along here to the final segment of Locked On NHL, I want to thank everybody who's listening. So, Winnipeg, Colorado has been awesome. There hasn't been a lot of defense. Connor Hellebuck has looked very mortal. Alexander Georgiev was god-awful in Game 1 and a lot better in Game 2. This is what it looks like. You know, we've talked a lot, you and I, texting back and forth about how Dallas and Vegas looks like the best series in terms of play, but there are just so many guys on both of these teams that every time you look up, someone is doing something ridiculous. And I feel we were pretty on the nose saying this would be the best series, and it's lived up to it so far. The crowd in Winnipeg has been juiced to the gills, where any play gets them going and they're in it. That's why you love this. It's just unfortunate this is a first round series. This very well could be a conference final. These could be the two best teams in the West, in all honesty.
Can we please get a best of 9 or a best of 11 or a best of 15 between these two teams? Because it has been so much fun to watch. That first game, that 7-6 game, was awesome. That first period, just goals back and forth between both teams. And from Georgiev's point of view, I was getting Marc-Andre Fleury vibes 2012 against the Flyers when I was watching Georgiev just give up howler after howler in that game. And you saw Winnipeg chanting, "Pull the goalie." That was just great stuff from the Winnipeg whiteout crowd. And by the way, the Winnipeg whiteout, one of the best playoff traditions, not just in hockey, but I think in all of sports overall. But you're right. Guys on both sides giving it their all. You saw how McKinnon and Makar in Game 2 were able to respond to what Winnipeg's high-end guys did in Game 1, like Kyle Connor, Ehlers, Scheifele, Morrissey, etc. Makar and McKinnon just took over the game in Game 2, man. It felt like they were never off the ice, and Jared Bednar was going, okay, we lost Game 1. I'm going to put these two out there every single time I can. We're not going back to Denver down 0-2. And that's exactly what happened. Makar and McKinnon and Ranson especially as well, they really carried the load in that game. And that it's the main reason why the series is going back to Denver tied at 1. I thought Georgiev was also a lot better as well. I have Colorado a little down my list for right now. I had them at number 1 last week. I have them at number 5 right now. And that's just because a few of the other teams in front have been a little bit better in their series. But this is still a very dangerous Colorado team. The crowd in Denver is going to be electric. And I expect Makar, McKinnon, and company to be really amped up for these two games in Colorado. I think they're going to be, again, their best players. But I think you're going to see a strong pushback from Winnipeg as well. We really need a big game from Hellebuck. You're right. He's been mortal. He's been human, if you want to call it that. We need to see God mode Connor Hellebuck come out, and we might see that at some point here soon.
Yeah, when you're in a series like this where it's the high-end guys making plays everywhere, it's part of what's made this series so entertaining is that every time you look up, there's one of the 30 best players in the world making something happen with the puck on their stick. The crowd is all the way into it, and it can go either way. Of course, we're only 2 games in. I can't wait for the game 3. I believe they bounce back tomorrow. NHL, why do we only have 2 games tonight? And why are they both in the Eastern time zone? Why are they 7 and 7:30? Why is not one at 8?
Nick, it's the NFL draft tonight. They don't want to be getting crushed.
They're going to get crushed. They're probably going to get crushed tomorrow for round 2 and 3 anyway.
That's fair.
They're probably going to get cooked tomorrow. People want to see where Spencer Rattler's going to get drafted. But let's shift up gears. Let's talk Battle of Florida. Tampa Bay they were in both of these games. They had opportunities. The one save Stamkos, Bob made at the end of game 1 with like 10, 15 seconds left. I thought that was a goal. I looked up at the screen. I saw Stamkos teed up the puck on his stick. I said, all right, we're going to overtime. And Bob made the save. Bob's made some ridiculous saves. Vasilevsky has made some ridiculous saves. Both of these teams have played very close. I'm not ready to say Tampa Bay is dead down 2-0. I don't think Tampa Bay is in a position now where they're probably going to be able to win 4 out of 5 games against a team as good as Florida. But I think Tampa Bay has the capability of mucking this up and slowing this down. I think they might win both of these games back in Tampa, and we go into that crucial swing game back in Sunrise 2-2, and that's where Florida pulls away. But man, Tampa Bay's doing their best. They do not have the talent to keep up with Florida, but they have kept these games very competitive.
I think they have the high-end talent. I just don't think they have the depth to keep up with the Panthers. I have the Panthers number 1 in my rankings for this week because when they are playing like this, Nick, I don't know who can beat them in a series, at least in this conference. I think in the West, other teams can beat them. For example, Vegas when they're humming like this, Colorado when their high-end talent is on, Dallas, but they're obviously down 0-2 to Vegas right now. But Florida, I think so far has been the best team in the playoffs. They're crushing Tampa at 5-on-5. They're at least limiting Tampa's power play to a little below average than normal, at least from how Tampa was during the regular season. Tampa Bay had the number 1 power play in the league. And even though Vasilevsky has been on another level in these 2 games, they've still been able to get big goals past him to take a 2-0 series lead. Florida is just a little bit better than Tampa. That's where it really comes down to. Tampa, I don't really think they've played that bad in these 2 games. They're doing everything they can to slow down Florida's depth. They're doing everything they can to make Bobrovsky look human, but Bobrovsky has turned it on to a completely different level. I mean, that save on Dumba in game 2, Nick, how in the heck did he save that? I mean, that was just a tremendous glove save. And if Bob is going to play like this, I mean, it might be curtains for Tampa overall. Vasilevsky can do all he wants, and he is doing everything in his power. But when Bob is matching him, it's just going to be really hard for Tampa to win 4 out of 5. I agree with you. I would not be surprised if this is 2-2 heading back to Sunrise, but I still like Florida to win this series in 7. I just think they're the better team at 5-on-5. I want to see though what Florida can do. What Tampa Bay can do now they're at home. They have last change. What adjustments does John Cooper make to counter the Barkov line, to counter the Kachuk line? That's what I have my eye on for games 3 and 4.
Carter Verhaeghe has more goals in the playoffs over the last 2 years than Connor McDavid. If we're just talking. Carter Verhaeghe was a waiver dump. Tampa couldn't find a spot for him on their roster, put him on waivers in Florida. He's been one of the best players in the postseason over the last 2 years. He was close to a point per game last year in their run to the Cup final. Wrapping up Nashville, Vancouver. I was very bullish on Nashville coming into this series because of their experience in relation to Vancouver. Vancouver's uncertainty. We all thought Demko would be healthy enough to play. He played game 1, didn't play game 2. If it's Casey DeSmith, I think there's a good chance the Predators can win this series. I really do, because Vancouver's defense, it's a little more leaky than it was in the regular season. And Nashville's just so persistent. They are a really hardworking team. They win a lot of loose pucks. And they know what – I hate using the they know what it takes cliche, but the guys at the top of that lineup, they've been there. And when you have a guy like Forsberg, who had 48, 49 goals this year, the goal he had was gross, where he went into the Panarin Patrick Kane of, I'm going to go as slow as I can and move my hands 100 miles an hour and deke the goalie out of his skates. Nothing you can do about that, man. Vancouver's not bad. They haven't played atrocious through 2 games, but my conviction about Nashville making this a series is even stronger now, especially not knowing if Demko's coming back or not.
Right. I mean, I picked Vancouver in 6 heading into the series just because I figured Demko was healthy, but now I hope I don't get old takes exposed for that pick just because Demko may not play the rest of the series. To Smith, well, I think he's a fine backup goaltender. I mean, I don't think he's going to outdo UC Saros. UC Saros is one of the 5 to 7 best goaltenders on the planet, and Saros was outstanding in game 2. Vancouver was throwing the kitchen sink at Nashville in that game. They had a ton of shot attempts through the final couple of periods, but not a lot of them went on net. The Canucks have to do a much better job of actually getting these attempts on net. Yeah, it's cool to fire everything you can overall, but you got to actually have accurate shooting lanes to shoot the puck. A lot of these pucks were just going way wide into the netting. Vancouver has to do a better job with that in game 3 here. And also, Nick, they got to get Elias Pettersson going. He's been really quiet these first couple of games. He missed an easy tap-in goal from about 15, 20 feet out. That should have been an easy one for him in Vancouver, but he missed it wide. He looked to the heavens, basically like, what the heck did I just do? He's got to get going if the Canucks want to win this series, I think. So I agree. I think Nashville does have the horses to, obviously make this series, but potentially win it, especially if Demko is out. You saw Forsberg was playing well yet again. Ryan O'Reilly, he is built for the playoffs, man. Even though he's a bit older now, that is a player that is built to score big goals in big games and also just play his tail off in big games. You're going to get a fired up crowd in Nashville as the series shifts back there. So I'm definitely a little bit worried about Vancouver for the rest of the series, especially if Demko can't come back. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Completely agreed with you there. That will just about do it for today's edition of Locked On NHL. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. Leave the show a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you are watching over on YouTube, like the video. Leave a comment. Let us know which series has surprised you the most. Subscribe, hit the alarm bell. When a new episode goes live, you get a notification. Until next Thursday, we'll see you guys then. Enjoy the playoff hockey, everyone.